Hello, future me, 70-year-old John Anderson, 2050. It is now 2020. I am working as a fitness director in the Presbyterian home, and make sure that's clear. My job is to keep people physically, mentally, emotionally, socially healthy. But it took a long way to get here. This is definitely not the end. I have a long way to go, as you know. But this all started back in 1995. I'm going to talk about my career for a little bit. Our career, your career, to spark your memories, help you remember. Because as we get older, as you know, the new memories that you're creating start populating your brain, and the older memories that you have start shrinking. You see how that worked there? So the new memories are taking over the older memories if you're not recalling them. So this is a little memory recall for you while our memory is still sharp. In 1995, we had 3 jobs. I started off as an Altoona newspaper delivery boy, helping our friend Adam Steele in the old neighborhood. Once I got to be 16 years old and can drive, got my own route, right? We drove into Lakemont Park, and this was before school. So we would deliver our newspaper down there, come back home, get ready for school, go to school. On the weekends, there was a disc jockey, Jack Zerby, helped us get in the door with John Smith and Starship Enterprises Sound and Light Systems. We DJ'd lots of weddings and school dances, special events, and MC them as well. During that time, we were also a AYSO, a referee, a soccer referee for kids' games after school. So 3 concurrent jobs going on there. And from 1980, when we were born, up through, where was it? I said stopped in 9th grade or through. These are all the activities we're a part of: AYSO soccer, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Bowling League, CCD and confirmation, roller skating lessons, gymnastics, t-ball, skiing lessons, piano lessons, basketball, that after-school book club we used to do in elementary school. And so those were all organized teams. I was also involved in a lot of extreme rollerblading. Got certified to teach rappelling. That's when we tied ourselves to the top of the cliff and down. Oh yeah, we joined the gym in 1995. That's because when we were playing soccer in 8th grade, we saw the high school soccer team, how strong and big they were. So we didn't want to get pushed around, wanted to do well, so started working out and lifting weights, but the YMCA wouldn't let you in the gym until you were 16. So prior to that, I joined Hollidaysburg Family Fitness and started working out there. I would walk there after school and sometimes walk home. Sometimes mom would pick me up. But yeah, good old Tim. So that brings us to, when I turned 16 over the summer, I started working as a Boy Scout counselor in training at Camp SEFMAC. I taught the roller skating merit badge all by myself. They gave you curriculum, but I had to take the kids through and teach them drills and skills and safety. And that was pretty fun. Got a big taste of summer camp and coaching. I did coach a youth soccer team around that time as well, but that was a volunteer. And graduating from high school, so this is 9th grade through 12th grade, we were in the ski club, on the soccer team, swim team, track team, cheerleading team, young life, still doing Boy Scouts, and confirmed to the church on Sundays. And I graduated with a 2.5 GPA, speaking the German language. Hello, wie geht es Ihnen? So we're up to 1998, 18 years old. We did, we were the YMCA summer camp counselor. Jairus had a couple parties there, slept over at each other's houses, and had some fun keeping the little kids in order. Around that time, I became the wellness coordinator at the YMCA. So that just meant that I kept the weight room straight and made a couple workouts, put them on the walls for them. Actually, that was around 1999. After the first year of college, I came back and did that. But I wouldn't be able to do that without that summer camp counselor position. So we're in college now, Westchester University. I got into Universal Cheerleading Association as an instructor. So 1999 was my rookie year. I became Rookie of the Year. Got a nice award for that. I was still DJing on the weekends, holidays, always Christmas parties and New Year's parties. I didn't do New Year's for a long time because I was always working. So while in college, I joined the cheerleading team, indoor and outdoor track and field. I was on the intramural soccer teams. We always won. Whoop, whoop. And Campus Crusade for Christ. That followed through with From Young Life in high school. But so 2000, I started working even more. I started working at All-Star Cheerleading was just becoming popular, so not cheering at the school, but going to only competing. So Team Angels was the name of the first team I worked with in 2000 in Malvern, Pennsylvania. I was also working at McDermott's Athletic Club as a general bottom of the tier. Dave Vendible called me the answer guy. He's the QVC fella that you see on there. He used to be on the news here in Altoona, but moved to Westchester where QVC was, and got to know him pretty well. Lots of neat people through fitness. You get to work with some cool cats. I started working at A. Dewey Pile in the warehouse. That was a different job, but paid well, 3 or 4 hours every night. Put those work boots on, go in and lift heavy boxes, and drive some pallets and some forklifts. I got certified to drive a forklift there. I started working with USASF, credentialing cheerleading coaches on safety, making sure that they were teaching the correct techniques so people wouldn't get hurt. Traveled all around certifying those coaches. And I became a USAW, that's weightlifting, club coach certified. So I could teach Olympic weightlifting, snatch, clean and jerk, and compete in order to go through the ranks at that, I think it was under 18. So on their way to USA Championships and Olympics. I got into, I was on the East Coast Gold team prior to getting that certification. So competed in a couple competitions. Can't even remember what I lifted. It was in kilograms, but I know I did twice my body weight in the clean and jerk, and then the snatch was just over my body weight. So around that time I was 185. Here we go. Powerlifting. I got into bodybuilding. I did my first bodybuilding show then. I started a lot of mud runs. So Philadelphia had a couple mud runs, kind of unorganized. It was just the start of mud runs. But Merle Shoes was the sponsor. So something like the Dirty Merle. I don't know. But I remember everyone starting at the same time. So you had to get out front as fast as you could. And then it would just be a bottleneck at each at each obstacle, and then sprint, and then bottleneck, and sprint, and bottleneck. So they didn't think that out too well, and I remember throwing away my muddy shoes because they were so caked in mud afterward. And then a couple years later, people started recycling those. That would have been a good idea beforehand. My internship was with Personal Trainers Incorporated, PTI, and Sports Science Systems over at the Upper Mainland YMCA. For some reason, I wish they would have talked to me more about that, but I didn't continue with that. I left that to start coaching. That could have taken me a long way, I feel like, but I didn't really get the guidance of what an internship is for. I thought it was just to graduate. It could have led into a nice career there, but there's a couple other little things that happen. I don't know if you can remember that. We won't share that right now with the couple other people. Nothing I did wrong, just moral things. So graduated from Westchester University with a 3.0, minored in coaching, and then I was supposed to have a second minor, a dual minor in nutrition. But the last semester I got like a C minus, I think, and you had to have a C to get that minor. I think it was in food prep because a couple of homework assignments were, I couldn't get to the grocery store. So I didn't get that nutrition minor, which, dang, got it. But got the coaching minor. And at that time, I got my certified strength and conditioning specialist achievement through the National Strength Conditioning Association. So that was pretty big, graduating with that. So 2002, I graduated, started working at Ursinus College as the cheerleading coach, gymnastics coach, or assistant gymnastics coach and assistant strength coach. So that was really fun. It was all of that together was just part-time. And I was still doing the UCA cheerleading, going around on weekends at judging competitions, going down to Florida about 3 times a year to work at nationals, high school, college, all-star, and worlds. Actually, worlds didn't start yet. We'll get to that. So we're living at Aunt Patty's house in King of Prussia. Also, I was still DJing as well. And then, it's noteworthy to mention that while at Ursinus College, we got we went to Eau Claire, Wisconsin for NCAA Division III National Championships. We got 3rd place, and I think the head coach that I was working with got runner-up coach of the year. Where are we at here? Oh, that was around the same time I started doing private lessons on the side. So I didn't really have a business. It was just cash under the table. And later I created the Stunt Doctor. So that was my all-encompassing private lessons. It wasn't really a company, it's just what I called myself. So I went to Nova Scotia to work with a cheerleading team up there. And we were driving when I was coaching the cheerleading team in the fall season. Took them all over in the small buses to the SUNY schools. We went to Boston, Mount Ida. Good times. I was 21 years old and they trusted me with a lot of stuff. That was a pretty big job. Learned a lot. And during that time, 2002, 2003, is living, like as I said, in King of Prussia. I joined the State All-Stars. But I just realized before that I was on the GTAGASC, Gloucester Township All-Girl Cheerleading Association, but I was a guy and they let me in. Lori. Thanks, Lori. And then actually before that we were on Tri-State All-Stars. So I was always on a cheerleading team somewhere. Okay, back to 2003. State All-Stars, gymnastics coach. The position at Altoona, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania State University. Remember that? So that cheerleading coach position became available, and I dropped everything I was doing in King of Prussia, applied to that position, got it, moved back home to Altoona. Mom always said, come back home, come back home. So I moved home, got that job with Penn Altoona. Of course, it was part-time. I think it was $3,000 a year to coach 3 hours a day, pretty much every day, going to every basketball game, soccer game. We did cross-country meets. I was in charge of the mascot. Yeah, $3,000. So that was 2003, fall of 2003. And then I needed more income, so I started working as a personal trainer at the Summit Athletic Club. That's where I met Alan, who got into sports evolution later. So Penn State Altoona, Summit Athletic Club. I also did, right after that, I started working the next summer, before I forget, Penn State University summer camps. So I was with their cheerleading team, teaching their team and high school teams through the Penn State University. So that was pretty big as well. Got my foot in the door there. And that also got me into doing special events. I became stage crew for Bryce Jordan Center, bringing in huge concerts. See, my memory's always gone because I haven't accessed these memories in a while, but I remember being in the pit, pulling people, crowd surfers, pulling them off. Did security checkpoints for corn outside. Did some country, Toby Keith. Lots of big acts. It was pretty cool doing that job. And then somehow during the winter, I fit it all in to be a lift operator at Blue Knob Resort. So I drive up there early in the morning, first tracks, shovel out the snow. Most of the time I would be the first one to take the chairlift down to the bottom. Blue Knob's a little bit backwards than most resorts. Take the chairlift down to the bottom, clean everything out, get ready for the skiers to come back up. Also, every once in a while I would be the shuttle driver to take people from the condos at the bottom of the hill up to the top of the hill where the lodge was. And I guess I was 22 years old at the time, 23 years old at the time, 23. Taking a bus full of people on icy roads, like 45 degrees. Can't believe they trusted me with that. I can't believe I trusted myself with that. Luckily, nobody got hurt. So lots of jobs at this time. Continuing doing mud runs, triathlons, powerlifting, weightlifting, competing all over. Where are we at? Oh, I started working with Cheer Factor All-Stars. I think that was in 2004. That's a Altoona cheerleading team. So they had about 3 or 4 different locations we moved around to, trying to build and grow. I remember having to roll the mats out before practice every day in the bottom of a church. Where else? Private lessons. Still doing private lessons. And so what's going on? 2 years into this, I found a summer camp called Camp Woodward. So by this point I had been doing UCA for 5 years, and it was time to transition into something new. So Woodward was kind of the extreme sports camp. Remember they had, keep forgetting I'm talking to my future self. So Woodward. At that time, it was the first year they started cheerleading. So I was an instructor, and whenever they didn't have enough cheerleaders, I would go over and coach gymnastics. And sometimes there were only 10 cheerleaders there, sometimes there were 0, sometimes there were 30. So that first year, there's 12 weeks during the summer. It was kind of sporadic. But I got the bug, and I decided the next year I wanted to go back to grad school and cheer again. So I was looking at a few different schools, and long story short, Arizona State had everything I wanted. So at the end of that school year, I took Penn State Altoona to Scranton UCA college camp from Scranton. So I had everything packed in my car for grad school for a whole year. I took my Jeep Libby, from Penn State Altoona. I said goodbye, good luck. All the cheerleaders had to get their way back home after camp, and I started driving to Arizona State because in 4 days we had our UCA cheerleading camp starting. So I remember driving across country. We had the mini DVD player hooked up to the rearview mirror, watching DVDs as I'm driving by myself across the country. I think I did about 10 hours each day, and I slept in rest stops in the back of the car. So we get to Arizona State. This is 2005, end of 2005. Prior to that, I forgot Arnold Sports Festival. Competed at Arnold Sports Festival, pump and run, and ollie lifts. So jobs down there. So talking about stunt doctor, I did a couple seminars with the Arizona Cheerleading Coaches Conference. It was like an organization, Arizona Cheerleading Coaches Organization Associates. They had a conference, so I got in somehow with them, and I met a lot of coaches and developed a lot of leads that way. I started working at Desert Storm Elite, coaching tumbling, and I didn't have any teams then. I think I got frustrated, and it didn't last very long. I worked there maybe 3 months, but we still practiced there with Arizona State, so I was on the cheerleading team there. By the way, grad school was leisure studies, well, aka hotel, resort, recreation management, but at that time it was called leisure studies. Other jobs I had while in Arizona were the mobile gymnastics instructor. So a former gymnast and his wife had a minivan with a bunch of kids' gymnastics equipment in the back, and they would go to the different schools in Phoenix, elementary schools, and we would be their gymnastics program, their physical education. So they paid him, he paid me, and I'd just show up, pull the equipment out, run the kids through a class, pack back up, go to the next school. We did about 3 a day, and it was a pretty cool concept, but it was a lot of work, and trying to fit that in with grad school at the same time. Then, this is a fun one, I started working at the Phoenix Zoo as a popcorn salesman, maker, snack. I guess it was more snack, but we did kettle corn was the big thing. Sold ice cream and drinks, but that was pretty cool, seeing all the animals every day and smelling the animals every day. And so I was still doing UCA events while I was down there, and I was also a mountain biking tour guide in the desert. So we would get corporate businesses. There was big tourism down there, which is one of the reasons I wanted to go there for leisure studies. Lots of resorts, tourism. So big groups, organizations would bring their teams in and stay for a week, a weekend. And one of the special events they would do is come out and get on the mountain bikes, and we would take them around, give them a tour, show them some of the mansions in the mountains. But mostly it was pretty flat, riding through the sand. That's another one that I wish I would have stuck with a little bit longer, but around that time I got a phone call from Woodward saying, hey, our cheerleading director who started this program isn't coming back next year. Are you interested in taking it over? She's having a baby. So year number 2 for Woodward, they wanted me to bring, not Woodward, they started in the 70s, but Woodward cheerleading. They wanted me to be the director of cheerleading. So I drove back home. I only got 1 year of grad school done. I drove back home to Altoona, took that job as a full-time Woodward camp. So my first full-time position, I think it was $18,000 maybe a year. Of course, it was 24/7 over the summer, so those 12 weeks. was working all the time. A month before that was prepping the camp, so we went out and scrubbed everything down, cleaned everything out, got the new equipment, got it all set up, and then the week after was cleanup too, and then those what's that, 8 months after is all marketing and promotion, preparing the programs for the next year, going out to competitions, gym visits. So we didn't work as much then, but in the off season, I mean. So we moved to one note while I was in Arizona. The strength coach, Joe Ken, I talked to him a few times because, of course, I was still interested in strength and conditioning. He gave me a good tip about remembering people's names. It seems common sense, but that's where that came from, trying to remember people's names. I was never very good at that. He said, if you want to make it far, you got to remember names. And then the sports medicine guys showed me I was always having trouble with my shoulder, trying to hold girls up that were 120 pounds over your head, and I weigh 180 pounds. I messed my shoulder up a lot. So he showed me the visualization to put a camera behind you, look at the screen in front of you, and control those shoulders, control your muscles. You can do it with any body part. But I had an overactive levator scapula maybe, so it was frozen, basically frozen shoulder. So I had to relearn how to move my shoulder by watching it happen. That was a big key part of something I learned with while down there. Wow. So I went to cheerleading, taught a cheerleading camp in Hawaii at that time. First Daytona Stunt Fest, first cheerleading worlds, Las Vegas, New Orleans, traveled all around for cheerleading. So we're back at full-time at Woodward. This time I'm living in State College with Ed and Alex. As I mentioned, the off-season was slow, so I got a couple more jobs. Penn State University Club cheerleading coach. So MySpace and Facebook were coming out at that time, and I got on there. There was lots of easy search engines. Interests, cheerleading, Penn State University. Send a message to everybody. Hey, we're starting a club cheerleading team. I think we had about 100 girls show up to tryouts, and the main cheerleading team was having about the same amount of people. So it was crazy to have such a huge tryout for the first year of Penn State Club cheerleading, but it was all thanks to Facebook and MySpace search engines. And it's not like that anymore. I was coaching, doing private lessons at Nittany Gymnastics. I think they had a cheerleading team there. I was also helping them on the side, kind of a stunt doctor type subcontractor. Actually, no, I was getting a paycheck from them, yeah. So that wasn't stunt doctor. Where else? Oh, I went back. I started working at special events, Penn State again, stage crew with Bryce Jordan Center. I have, this is the time where I also got into, it wasn't grad school, but I was trying to get the teacher certification program at Penn State. So there's about 2 years here, 2007 to 2008. End of 2006 to beginning of 2008, I started as taking classes at Penn State University. I was enrolled as a certificate program, so I think it was considered graduate school. Not positive. Again, that memory. Don't use it, you lose it. So I practiced with the cheerleading team. I went to summer camp with them, and I did the first game. I think it was Coastal Carolina. It was raining, so we couldn't even stunt. But I was getting fed up with all the classes that I, as a full-time student, and taking level 100 classes from Penn State because it was a requirement for the certification program. So I was 26, 25 years old, and in class with freshmen. I think it was Literature 101, Chemistry 101. So I got fed up and left. Don't quit. So I left that. I went back to well, everything else was keeping me busy, but where are we at here? I started doing personal training at the YMCA to fill some of that time. So the State College YMCA. Um, I was the assistant strength coach at State College High School for it was like the end of the summer, from the winter spring season. A lot of track and field athletes trying to stay fast. Again, Joe Ken's be mad at me. I forgot the name of the head coach there. He got a college coaching position and left the same time I did because we were supposed to do a lot of summer programming and I was full time at Woodward. So I only got about 3 months in as the assistant strength coach at State College, but I had to go to back to full time with Woodward. Remember, I'm still getting paid from Woodward here on the weekends doing special events, but I had all these other jobs. And then I get the call. Appalachian State University, remember App State, 2008, their head cheerleading coach position is available. So this is about the time where I stopped doing all of my extracurricular activities. Oh, I forgot, Arizona State, we were USA National Champions for cheerleading. We went to Las Vegas and won that competition. And then there was after I was done cheerleading at Penn State's cheerleading team, we started a former Penn State cheerleading competition team. I think we competed once with Kurt, the head coach at Penn State. He was on our team. And still doing mud runs, still doing triathlons. So App State calls, go down, interview, get the job. They say I can still do Woodward over the summer and App State. So App State's only part-time, it's $8,000. So with the 18 from Woodward and the 8 from App State, it's a full-time job. All right, it's not a whole lot, but most I've ever made up to this point. So it was basically eat, sleep, breathe, cheerleading, planning all the practices. You should see all my documents. Remember those? Documented everything, every practice, every email, every interaction with alumni, fundraising, planned everything out. Every trip, I loved planning those trips. The away football games, where we're going to stay, where we're going to eat, where we're going to stop. So while we were down there, first game, Michigan. So during the summer, I remember hearing the fight song every single day in the weight room. Jeff Dillman was a strength coach there. And I thought there was 2 different fight songs because we would practice our fight song. And I finally realized after a couple weeks that they were playing Michigan's fight song, trying to amp up the players. Like, you're going to hear this a lot. You're going to hear this a lot. So whenever you're squatting max weight and you hear this fight song playing, you're out on the field and you hear that fight song playing, you relate it. That was a big lesson I took away from Dillman. That was brilliant. And something else I remember, well, you remember how this ends. The App State goes up, no talk of underdog between us. They're talking like, it's another game. We got to win this game. And like I said, they didn't think, oh, we're underdogs. We have to work super hard. They were thinking, we just have to beat Michigan. So that's how they trained. That was their mentality going into it. So biggest upset in college football history. App State beats Michigan. That was my first Division I coaching on the sideline. And then they went on to win the national championships in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We were there for that. Beautiful, amazing. The cheerleading team went on to Spirit Sports National Championships in Myrtle Beach. We won that. And so everything was good with App State. And then, mistake. Not a lot of mistakes, but that means I learned a lot. UCA calls me back up and says, hey, we see you're coaching at Appalachian State. What are you doing over the summer? You should take over these summer camps. So Appalachian State did have cheerleading camps there run through the university. So they were getting all of the profit, right? So UCA wants to come in, triple the enrollment because they've got a huge following, kids coming out from Charlotte. They say, if you coach here, we'll give you some of that bonus, getting all these kids in. That meant, though, that I had to stop working at Woodward. But they also said, oh, we'll send you to California, we'll send you all over. So I agreed. I called Woodward, said I can't work anymore. I put in, I think 4 years, 3 years as the director, 4 years total. And I started working as with UCA again, trying to get all these kids up to, I thought it would help Woodward, I thought it would help App State kind of as a, getting all these kids in there as recruiting source. Didn't work out that well. I should have stayed with Woodward, but hindsight's 2020, right? Anyway, they did send me to, UCA sent me to Chile and Argentina to coach cheerleading, but that was the highlight of that. So moving forward, 2009, I get called into the office at App State. John, have you been practicing without the athletic trainer there? No. But I was doing recruiting, so I was stunting. And so they asked me to resign for having their unofficial practices without an athletic trainer there. I wasn't being safe with the kids, basically, is what it came down to. So they asked me to resign. And I moved back to Altoona. And started a recess, which now in 2050, you're watching this, it's worldwide. Everybody knows about it. Everybody has an active living furniture designed living room in their house. Action room, not a living room, right? I can see the future. I know what I'm planning. So Real Recess, I started that with Sports Evolution in the back of Galactic Ice. I was also working with Cheer Factor. I eventually moved Real Recess into the back of Cheer Factor, that cheerleading gym at the old Wissinger's grocery store. I was coaching Altoona High School. I was the assistant coach of Altoona High School cheerleading. I started assistant coaching St. Francis University, Division I. They had a couple guys, and I was in charge of the mascots. I was coaching gymnastics at LTD Gymnastics, part of the coaching staff there. And during that time, I was also on Cheer Excel. So on the weekends, I would drive out to Harrisburg and be part of the Cheer Excel cheerleading team. And I started a strong kid competition. So like a strong man, but for under 18 years old to do strongman. Pretty sweet stuff. So as soon as I came back here, and I remember I was super focused on Real Recess, staying up till 2, 3 a.m., just working, planning everything out, thinking I knew that Real Recess was going to be huge because just everybody was starting to get into fitness. I loved it. But I had a lot of distractions. Cheerleading being one of them. So I kept moving into bigger facilities, right? So Real Recess and Cheer Time, which is a gym that I had a lot of interaction with. I wanted to do a franchise. So I got into a bigger gym. Real Recess was on one side, the cheerleading was on the other side. We had Penn State Altoona. I was coaching them again. They came up to practice there. St. Francis University would come down and practice once in a while. Altoona High School would come over and practice. And I was pretty much giving it away for free. It wasn't good business, but it was so much fun. I loved it. And then on the weekends, actually Sundays, I would drive out to Cheer Time main facility in Harrisburg, practice for 2 or 3 hours, get in the car, drive 5 hours the whole way over to Pittsburgh, practice with Pittsburgh Superstars for about 2 or 3 hours, and then get back home by 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So my Sundays were all about me. The gym wasn't open. I was still doing powerlifting meets, mud runs, triathlons. I attempted, stunt started at this time. I tried doing stunt at my gym, but it just wasn't, excuse me, stunt wasn't gaining popularity as fast as, or at least the kids and me enjoyed cheering at games. So we tried it, but it didn't work out. Also, um, we started Altoona parkour. So we had a bunch of kids from Penn State Altoona coming out with the cheerleaders. They were practicing their own parkour stuff. I had trampolines, tumble tracks. We climbed up in the rafters, jumped off the roof. We had parkour going on. That was a great time. And it was around here where I started doing additional sources of income with network marketing. So here's a list. I started Life, Monavie, Vima, Advocare, the Ambit Energy. Did a lot of, put money into those. I made a little bit of money coming out, but it was, again, distractions. I was trying to make all this money from having my hands in all these different pots, and it just was too much, right? Couldn't focus. So I started getting into special events because I had this huge facility. We did the fitness pentathlon, which was kind of like the CrossFit Olympics, right? Not the Olympics, but their main competition. So it was 5 events challenging all aspects of fitness. I had the Good Life Expo, which was kind of adult registration. Adults know what's going on in the area. All the fitness gyms come together. Chiropractors, healthcare providers, everything dealing with making your life better. And then we had Larry, Lary, local activity registration for youth. Again, all the same basic principle as the Good Life Expo, but for younger kids. So Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, baton twirling, soccer, dance, basketball, all of these organizations coming together and letting parents see what's going on and let the kids register. So 2010 to 2011, with all these activities, I ended up closing Real Recess, right? It was just too much going on. I didn't focus on, there was a lot of people that owed me money. I didn't focus on collecting, and I was doing all this by myself. My mom and Bruce did help me with trying to advertise a little bit. We did that TV commercial, which I regret that. Should have put that money into other things. But anyway, hindsight 2020, right? So I started working at Planet Fitness after I closed Real Recess. I was still coaching St. Francis, still coaching Penn State Altoona. I was still doing classes at Sports Evolution and Galactic Ice. I started working at Breton Medical. So I met Lisa at Planet Fitness. I was their personal trainer, basically teaching people how to use the equipment. It was a great gig, didn't pay very much. Got to meet a lot of people. One being Lisa from Breton Medical, who brought me over and introduced me to Mark and Tara, who owned Breton Medical. So it was a durable medical equipment company that people that were having back surgeries, neck surgeries, knee surgeries, we did bracing, electrotherapy. It was a good next step from my kinesiology degree and background, seeing that side. We got to travel. Well, I drove the car an hour radius around here to different hospitals, doctors' offices. It was a nice gig. But then, during that time, I started picking up ballroom dancing. Because did I move home? No, I was still living with Brad then. Cooking, still doing cheerleading. I was on the team at cheer time. But decided to move to get a full-time job. Breton Medical is part-time because it was on an ad-needed basis. If people didn't have their surgeries, then they didn't need me to fit anybody to their equipment. So some weeks were super busy, some weeks were super slow, and I got paid about, what was it, $40 per person. So it was lucrative some weeks, other weeks it wasn't. So I tried to move somewhere where I had more stability. Newtown Athletic Club, the NAC, in Newtown, Pennsylvania. I got a job there as a personal trainer. They had a Parisi speed school in the basement, so I was a speed coach, which I had experience with Sports Evolution and Sports Science Systems, so that was a shoe in there. I loved that. and then Rockstars All Stars. So I made most of my money with private lessons there, teaching kids to tumble. It was a nice area. So personal training was like $80 an hour. The tumbling was $50 an hour. This is the most money I ever made. I was making about $80,000 a year, but I was also living in a really nice apartment, gated community. Bought a new car. So even though I was making more money, I was spending more money too. So fast forward a year. That was cool. We were doing lots of special events, obstacle course races. I started getting into self-help books, DVDs, audios. I found Gary Vee at that time. This is 2012. And then I got fired. I was listening to all these self-help books. I made a pros and cons list of staying with what I'm doing versus going back to real recess, what I really loved, having my own place. I remember distinctly sitting in the lobby of the cheerleading area. Somebody came in early, so I ran over, unlocked the doors, grabbed my books and papers, threw them in my locker, and did the lesson. Well, I guess during all that confusion, I dropped that list of pros and cons versus quitting that job. And the owner, somebody gave it to the owner. So somebody found my paper, gave it to the owner, because her name was on there too. And got called into the office a couple days later, and they said, "Hey, what's this list about? You're fired." So I got a job at a car place. I was a car salesman, McCafferty's. While I was working there, I was looking for another full-time position that keep me satisfied. It was interesting learning about sales. I read a lot of books, listened to a lot of videos. I just wasn't into selling cars. This time I grew my first beard. Started into partner acro. I started inventing real recess furniture. So making active furniture. This is when it really started, 2013, 2012. So I got McCafferty's, and then Woodlock came along. I don't know how I got into probably searching for resorts. They were hiring for server position of a Woodlock resort. So I drove up there. They gave free dinner, and I was hooked. It was like heaven. So luxury resort, spa, fitness center. Just moved up there right away. We lived on the golf course, and was working 12-hour days, making okay money. I think it was about $24,000 a year. And I started picking up some personal training, teaching some fitness classes. Got a position in the spa as a spa concierge, learning about the treatments that they did. This is where I kind of developed my philosophy of adventure and discovery. They have an outdoor program also, mountain biking, kayaking. So it was a really good experience. However, living where I was with that new car payment that I bought, working at an athletic club, I needed more money. So I started working as a home repairman for cardiovascular equipment. It didn't matter what the brand was. Some guy owned this company, and he was hiring people on Craigslist, and he'd give me a call, say, "Hey, I need you to go to this address at this time and fix their treadmill." So he walked me through most of the steps, but it was kind of uncomfortable walking into people's houses, trying to fix their equipment, and not having much background in it. I fixed most of them. There's a couple of them that they just had to replace the whole treadmill. So that was interesting. Then 2014 comes. Broke up with the fiance at the time, so I moved back to State College. Moved in with Ed. He had a nice condo right off campus, and was doing the Penn State football games. So I was in the stands helping people find their seats. I was an usher. Sometimes I got to do the student section. That was a great experience. I was working at Mario's Italian Ristorante. And I was really digging into corporate wellness. So I wanted to get Real Recess started again. This has been my plan the whole time. So I was interviewing people, asking questions, got in with the hospital, got in with the Res Tech, Minitab, interviewed everybody. They either had programs going or they weren't interested in starting one yet, but I was also taking marketing and advertising classes with Jack and Vela, going to lectures, going to special events. It was a good learning time. And then I got a job with an employee wellness company called U Wellness. So I would drive out to Harrisburg to work in a government building, teach their employees. It was like a 2 or 3 month program once a week, doing different types of group exercise without equipment. So I'd show up in their basement, we'd get sweat going, I'd go home. It was very minimum employee wellness, but it was still good experience. So I started trying to do the triobstaclon. I went into Tussey Mountain, the ski resort, and the triobstaclon was my idea of a triathlon obstacle course. So swim, bike, run, with obstacles in all of those, going over, under, around, through. Never got off the floor. I think I had like 3 people sign up for it. But and then Superstar Athletics was State College all-star cheerleading. I was doing private lessons and tumbling lessons there. And then I got a call from an old contact from Woodward called Core Athletics. They made fast bands, so they're patented fitness equipment, straps that go around your thighs with 2 bungees that keep your legs together. So every time it's movement, fitness through movement. So every time you move, you're exercising, is resistance. I moved up there and I was their content developer. So basically I made new programs for their fitness equipment that I already had. They had a couple other products, but that was the main one they were trying to get off the ground. There were a couple red flags there with former partnerships that didn't work out, but it was worth a shot. I didn't have much else going on at the time, so moved up to Boston, Newburyport, and worked about 8 hours for them in the office, and then spent about 4, 5, 6 more hours working on Real Recess. Go home and eat and drink, and I gained a lot of weight while I was up there. But it was a nice area. We traveled the whole way down the East Coast a couple times, going to expos and cheerleading competitions, trying to sell this. I tried to get into fitness too. Went to the Europa in Atlantic City. Just couldn't catch on. Again, hindsight, we should have gotten into Amazon, but the owners didn't want to do that. But I did learn a lot about marketing through all this experience. I learned putting together SEO for the website, writing blogs, documenting, creating videos. Got into Canva and making advertisements. So it was a good hands-on experience. And so that lasted about a year, and they decided to close down. So I moved back home, 2016, Breton Medical again, Penn State Altoona cheerleading coach again, Sports Evolution again. And then, again, side projects. I had a F&A I Love PA t-shirt idea. I wanted everybody that lived in Pennsylvania to have my t-shirt and stickers. F&A I Love PA. That's what I would say when I went outside all the time. I'm back. I had the triathlon, so it was a triathlon, but in between the transition areas, instead of just putting your bike away, getting your shoes on, you would do a short 5 to 10 minute CrossFit WOD. And I was going to do that up at Blue Knob Resort. Again, couldn't get people interested. These were all one-man shows. I was trying to do all this stuff by myself, and just didn't have enough time with all the other jobs I was doing, but I was hoping one of them would stick. I had a corporate team building challenge we put together at the summit. That was fun. Halloween adventure weekend at Raystown Resort. That was another great family fitness event. I did the nature workout at Canoe Creek. It was just a meetup on the weekends. Come out. I had to go through all the different paperwork and certifications to get that together. And then I started the MACMO, most agile quarter mile on earth. So basically, I have a whole website on this. You can make whatever path you want. There's 3 different courses: uphill, flat, downhill. So I got the idea from a couple movies, seeing other events, but you have 9 runs. You add all your runs together, and that's your final score. So you go uphill any way you can get around, through. Sometimes it was curved, and it was agile because it was over logs, around rocks, through fields, but it was only a quarter mile. So I love that idea. Never took off. Started working at Solar Shield with a friend Randy. Again, as a salesman, so I was standing at special events. I had a lot of experience with it, but I just wasn't successful. I wasn't passionate about it. Started working the dance schools, started getting into tumbling. So I had 3 dance schools I was working with: Charlene's Dance School, Studio on 5th, and Becky's School of Dance. Boom, boom, boom. All 3 of those positions. I started coaching cheerleading, assistant coach at Hollidaysburg. That was a disaster. I should have quit right away. It was cool. I enjoyed it, but the head coach didn't work out. Solar Shield. I was back at LTD Gymnastics, coaching there again. I started doing deliveries for Creative Expressions. So as a flower place, she would just call me. I'd be working from home, doing something else. She'd call me. I'd go deliver her flowers for her. And then I started working at REI. Got my REI mug. In the warehouse. So I'd pick things, throw it on the conveyor belt. It was really cool seeing the back end of all of that. A huge warehouse for the East Coast. Stuff goes in, down to the shipping department. I ended up working at the shipping department as well. I went down to 155 pounds working here because it was just sweating, manual labor. And then I'd go home and I started working at Keystone Ninja Factory. So as I mentioned, back in 2010, I started the Altoona parkour. So I'd have kids come in, teach them agility, risk versus reward. It was great. I had a whole program put together, and then this guy comes to me and says, "Hey, John, I'll put some money in. We'll build some your own space. Call it he didn't have a name for it, but his daughter competed in American Ninja Warrior Junior, and he wanted her to be the advertisement for it. I thought it was a great idea, so we opened a gym. Ended up calling it Keystone Ninja Factory. I did the website, the name, the Facebook, the blogs, the pictures, photography, all programming. He put in a little bit of money for the equipment, and I worked for him $20 an hour. So that was after I'd come home from REI, and I would do that. Again, I was getting burnout, wore out, REI. Then I started working at, I quit that, waking up at 3 a.m. driving out there, and I started working at Value City Furniture, salesman selling furniture, and still doing Ninja. And then I also picked up Valet Living, which was a cool concept. I would drive out to Altoona, apartment complex out there, pick up the trash every day from each person's apartment, bring it to the dumpster, take the trash, bring it to the dumpster. So I was running back and forth that only took an hour, but it was all running. It was a cool concept company. I'm sure they're doing really well. It's nationwide. During this time, somehow on the side, I got I call it I'm Ready Love, the website. Tried to do a matchmaker for brother Brad, Altoona, Pennsylvania, Blair County matchmaking service. Had the website, Facebook for that, Instagram for that. I also did Power Biz Group, Power Business Group, but the website was powerbiz.group. Teaching people how to make and create their Google listings, their Facebook page, their website. It's crazy that I was giving the service basically away for free, and I couldn't get anybody to do it. that's one of the things whenever I had the gym, I wish I had that knowledge. I spent so much money on advertising when I could have been doing it myself if I had the knowledge. Um, and then I started working for Robert's Four Seasons. That was a landscaping company, mowing grass, lots of sweat, blood, sweat, and tears involved there. So moving forward, that was 2018. 2019, getting up close here. Still doing Keystone Ninja Factory. I quit everything else, and I started. I was the general manager at the Northern Blair County Recreation Center. Now, it's a nonprofit. I'm getting more red flags. I should have realized with all my past experience. There's the vacuum cleaner. Hope you can still hear me. Northern Blair County Recreation Center. Almost done here. Stay with me. General manager, I was working 8 a.m., 6 p.m. Then I run over to the Ninja Gym and continue doing our Ninja classes. But I would basically redid the whole website at the rec center, programming, tried working with all of the instructors to change and work on what they wanted to work on as far as getting more people in. The fire extinguishers were out of date. Everything was, like I said, the website was old, the phone system, the computer system. I updated everything, spent so much time. And it was like a one-man job again, basically. So the main guys, there was a board of directors. They all wanted special events done too. So trying to do all this upgrades, I was only there for, 5 or 6 months. They had 5Ks, the nature trail I was taking care of. I was doing all the photography. I was trying to teach a couple classes and put together all these special events as well. So because I wasn't focusing on these individual requests, I feel like they didn't like what I was doing. So basically I was asked to resign there. I hired about 3 people and they fired all 3 of those people because they said we didn't need them. I love you guys. We did need you. And now here I am at the Presbyterian Senior Living Fitness Director position. I'll leave it there. I know you can't hear me very well, and I'll try another one of these for the places I've gone, people I've been with, friends, family. I love you guys. Thank you for listening. Happy 70th birthday, John.